Welcome to Futureproof Business. Smart strategies, real insights, and tools to lead and scale in a fast-changing world. Let's future-proof your success.
Hi, I'm your host of the podcast, Futureproof Business. Today I have the honor of interviewing Melissa Chiou. Melissa, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, thanks, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Melissa, can you share a little bit about who you are and your background with the audience?
Sure. I am a marketer and I work with different businesses, usually, medium to large businesses on their content strategy, content audits, content development, and any live events. My background was originally in TV production and then I pivoted into marketing. And so I mostly work in the digital space now.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Can you maybe share a little bit more about your career journey? How did you get into TV and production and what made you want to shift into marketing?
Sure. My background, I have an English degree. And then right after school, I just started working on TV and film sets in the DC area. And so, yeah, I just learned on the job. Pretty much, even if you go to film school, everyone starts as a production assistant, as a PA. And so that's what you do. I started out on location in the field. So I did that for a while. I really enjoyed that, working with different types of productions where you learn the different types of roles. And then I eventually went into the technical side. I was a teleprompter operator for a while, working on broadcast TV shows, corporate events. So I learned that part of it. And then I eventually went out to LA and worked in live sports productions, reality TV shows, some post production, mostly studio work at that point. Just, yeah, it was all studio pretty much. And then I was able to pivot into entertainment marketing. And then a couple of years ago, I came back to the East Coast, so mostly working on digital marketing.
I mean, you went to LA and worked with film production. Is there any famous TV shows or films that you think the people in the audience will recognize?
In LA, yeah, I worked for Real World, one of the Real Worlds in post production. I worked on that. That was my first kind of temporary job once I got out there. So I learned how reality TV worked and things like that. So that was interesting. Yeah, and then I went into live sports production when I was at DIRECTV. So that I learned a lot about football, baseball. So yeah, we would have that on everything, everywhere in the studio, just because all the editors and the producers were working on that.
Have you ever been working with any celebrities?
Oh, Leonard Maltin, we worked on a show for him for DIRECTV. He's a really nice man, really professional. Yeah, they're really trained people. They're really easy to work with because they can just read their copy really quickly for TV and they're done. I mean, he's pro. So I love working with professional talent. Joan London, also journalist. Yeah, I mean, it's a variety of people. DC, it's mostly I worked with politicians. So Dick Gephardt, Bob Dole. This was early in my career. Yeah, Rachel McAdams, when she was out in the Eastern Shore filming Wedding Crashers, they I worked on a shoot for it was like the Notebook promos, and so we were out there shooting promos with her while she was on the set of the Wedding Crashers at the same time. So that was way back early in my career as well.
Oh, I mean, it sounds like a lot of fun and excitement. How did you shift into marketing?
I wanted to do more graphics work, and so I went to my manager at the time. I said I wanted to do more graphics work. He said there wasn't anything available. At the time, I was still working in a studio on live sports productions and TV shows in LA. But he came back to me a couple months later and he said, well, there's a job opening in this other department with this other manager. Do you want to go talk to her? So I went to talk to her. I already knew her. She knew me. Pretty much got the job. It was not listed anywhere, not even internally or externally. So because I had been proactive in telling my manager about what I wanted to do, that's how I was able to move over. And so the new department that I moved to, they worked on entertainment marketing campaigns. So for Discovery Channel, National Geographic, Warner Brothers. So all those big networks and yeah, that had partnerships with DIRECTV at the time.
So, I mean, you worked with some, big companies like DIRECTV, National Geographic, Warner Brothers. Was there any like standout campaign, that really stood out when you're working for them?
I like Discovery Shark Week. That was always a really good campaign because they had the best promos, really engaging and really good producers working on that. So I enjoyed working on those campaigns. Yeah, any of the ones with really easygoing clients that you didn't have to worry about. Because when I worked on the campaigns, I was more of a project manager. So it was a lot of coordination between clients and post production, creative, and internal departments to get everything in on time for air. So yeah, I really enjoyed the clients that were really easy to work with.
Great. So how did like your experience working in light of broadcast, like shape how, your communications and leadership style?
Oh, well, when you're on film and TV sets, you really meet a lot of different people. So you could be talking to maybe a grip or a PA 1 minute, and the next it's some executive, some top company. So you really have to manage how you talk to different people sometimes. So there's that. And yeah, you get to meet a lot of different people and learn from them. So that was interesting.
Like what challenges did you face like early on in your career and how did you like overcome them?
Well, the primary thing was I was a woman in a technical role, and I show up on set and people don't expect me to look the way I am. They're expecting a man, of course. It was already kind of going against people's expectations to begin with. Yeah, I did definitely have a pressure to just always be perfect at everything. So I did have a lot of anxiety. So that's one reason I don't really miss that part of working in TV. And live production is very specific because it is very time pressure. And then when you're dealing with technical equipment, we would always bring backups of everything, backup laptops, monitors, gear, just in case, because all kind of things tend to happen. Sometimes the laptop doesn't want to work one day, but always being prepared is really important.
So now fast forward, you now currently help like companies, businesses with their marketing strategy, content and SEO. So like you help business like modernize their messaging to their target audience. What do you think are some of the key ingredients for an effective content strategy today?
Sure. First of all, I usually meet with the client and see what are they struggling with and what are their goals. Are they trying to get more sales? Are they trying to get more brand awareness? What are they trying to do? So that's really important to understand where they're coming from and then to understand their industry. So the clients I've worked for the last couple of years have ranged from government, biotech startups, media companies, so a wide range. So it's really important to understand their specific industry as well in terms of how they like to talk, just their process. So I think that helps as well. And then also after meeting with the client, then doing a complete content audit is really helpful just to understand what exactly they've been doing and how it's been working or not working for them. And then creating a content strategy for them that would fill in those gaps and help them.
So what do you think some of the business trends you've been seeing the last few years, like what's been happening?
Sure, definitely a focus on digital marketing in terms of paid social ads. Those are probably the most efficient. Also, connected TV ads. That's something that I'm learning more about. And so it's kind of the streaming version of what I used to do because the marketing campaigns when I worked at DirecTV, they were sent to consumer set-top boxes. So that's a satellite version of it. So when people turn on their TV on the main screen of their interface, they'll see a trailer or a promo for a new show. So the connected TV version is just the streaming version of it. So for instance, if it's a Roku, people would turn on their smart TV and they'll see an ad somewhere for something, so that's connected TV ads.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, now that you've worked for many different brands, what do you think some of the common mistakes are the brands are making when it comes to their content and SEO?
I think a lot of times they insulate themselves so much internally that they kind of speak in jargon at most. So I've seen that before, and that doesn't translate well to a public facing platform, for instance, social media. If people are just learning about your company or organization and you use all this jargon, they're not going to understand. It's off-putting. So yes, trying to get clients to be more conversational, use more inclusive language. It's really important. I think some of the terms and language are so archaic that they need to be they just need to be modernized for the modern world because that's not how we live anymore. Yeah, basically that's it.
That's great. I mean, now that you've done like SEO optimization for companies, for you saw you work with companies, different industries. How is it like you do like your SEO and strategy differently depending on the industry? Since you work with clients in different industries.
Sure. Yeah, it all starts with a content audit and then doing the research to understand their industry. Because one of the clients that I worked for was a B2B biotech company. So I had to learn a lot about scientific terms because they were talking to scientific audiences, scientific labs. So yes, that learning those kind of terms that's really important. So doing your research on the industry and then doing research on SEO, what are people asking for, and then doing the SEO audit as well. Because for the biotech client that I worked for, they had no SEO at all on their website. And so the the founder just said, "Can you look at this? Tell me what I need." And so I did the market research to see what would fit their website. So yeah, I was able to do the market research and then find a tool that would work. And then I installed it myself. I do have WordPress experience, and then after I installed it, I worked in tandem with their web developer on the changes. So I did the content editing and then the developer did the coding changes and the website changes. And so, yeah, we were able to increase the SEO score from 40%. So it was a big improvement because before it was pretty low. And then with all the changes that combined that me and the web developer did, we were able to improve it a great deal.
Well, now some people say because of things like AI, SEO is dead now. Nobody's, do you find that true or what's your take on that?
Yeah, it is a difficult time. I mean, SEO is only one part of what I do. It's not my main thing. So I can only say that it is very difficult if you do SEO only, just because of the algorithms for the search engines, especially for Google, of how because they could just make a change one day and then all your traffic may be gone. Yeah, just from talking and hearing from other SEO specialists, it's a really difficult time, things that are out of their control.
So what advice do you give to people if they're interested in creating a content strategy from scratch? Where do you begin?
Sure, a lot of it's market research, just seeing, especially competitor analysis, compare yourself to a company that sells a service or provides a product that's similar to yours, see what they're doing, and then also market trends. There's lots of data from marketers and marketing organizations that are helpful. So you can see the data of how the different platforms are performing, the different social media platforms and their demographics. So it's important to do the market research, understand your competitor, and that's about it.
So how do you measure success? Like when you do like your content strategy or SEO for a client?
Sure, it depends. So I base it on what the client's goal was. So if the original goal had been brand awareness, we would look at the data and see, okay, are they getting more traffic to their digital channels? And so we could see the analytics from those. Are with the goal sales? Are we seeing increased sales? So we pretty much do a comparison like that way.
So like you said, like you ran campaigns like for a company like, DirecTV's TiVo platform. Can you share any stories about that? I mean, what was it like running campaigns? like with the DIRECTV TV platform?
Sure. I was based in LA at the DirecTV Broadcast Center, and so my job was pretty much a project manager in the operations department as part of DirecTV. And so we would get requests for upcoming advertising campaigns from DirecTV Ad Sales in New York. And so Ad Sales New York works directly with either mostly directly with the media buying companies who buy media time on behalf of companies. So the media buying companies are like Omnicom, Allscope. Yeah, there are a bunch of them. And then they represent companies such as Discovery, Warner Brothers. So yeah, it's multi-layered. And then so we coordination with DirecTV Ad Sales New York, and then once that got handed off to me, I would schedule it and then send the specs to the client. Sometimes it would be back to DirecTV Ad Sales to pass on to the client. Sometimes I will work directly with the client. So that would be the Discovery people or whoever, Nat Geo people. Uh,
Also, like, you worked on both like the creative and technical roles in the past. How do you bridge the gap between those two roles?
Yeah, it is different because I came from a technical background. So once I made the leap more into the marketing project management side, it was all client facing. And so, but the thing is, when I was doing the project manager job, I was still doing the technical as well because I was still in the Avid and Final Cut suite and I was editing campaigns together. So once all the deliverables came in, I would still need to edit them together for air. I mean, the primary editor from the creative team from whatever network it came from, it's already approved and it's edited by their editors. But my job was to put it all together so it could go broadcast up to the satellite. So we had very technical specs at that point. So that's why so in that job, I was doing both.
So how do you keep your creativity flowing with all these deadlines and pressures?
Mostly planning ahead. Yeah, good content calendar, spreadsheets. I love Airtable, so that's really good. And so you can have a master view of everything that's going on at the same time, especially when you have multiple campaigns running.
So do you still work with like helping brands produce video content? You don't do that anymore. You just do the content strategy.
Occasionally, sometimes, yes. I have worked on the agency side as well, where they just needed social media graphics and social media copy put together and scheduled. So I have done some of that too as well. I'm mostly focused on strategy, but I can do the content development as well.
I was thinking before, like you were talking about, like how some brands, the messaging not be up to par with being engaged with their audience. Can you maybe share some tips on how brands can make their social media content more engaging and strategic?
Sure. I mean, it's just I think they have to be very aware of the media landscape right now. You're competing against how many TV channels, 500, 600 channels, plus online streaming, plus YouTube and social media channels, social media companies that now are media companies. So you're just competing with too many different things. You have to be aware of, you can't make your content boring because people will just click away in the first 8 seconds. It has to be engaging in that first couple of seconds in your video. People really love to engage with faces if they see human faces. So that's really important. Yeah, and being aware of market trends is really important.
What is your typical process of onboarding like a new client?
Oh, usually they will either email me or ask for a call, and then we would have a meeting just to discuss what do they need, what is the goal of their campaign, and how could I support. That's pretty much it. And then we would just go from there.
Can you maybe share some examples of how you help your clients, with their marketing?
Sure. I did Well, I did one project for Levitate Media. So they were working on a website relaunch. So they're a video production company and they were totally redoing their whole website. And they had a technical writer who wrote their copy for their homepage, but they needed a marketing pass on it. If you ever interacted with a technical writer, their writing is very different from a marketing copywriter. So technical writers, they usually write manuals, technical instructions, things like that, which is very different than having to be engaging and conversational in digital media. And so that's more my strength, the marketing copywriting. And so they wanted me to do a pass on the homepage. And so I rewrote that for them to make it more engaging, grabbing people straight away. Yeah, so I helped them with that, and then they asked me for more blog copy to help them with their blog as well. So again, with their content development for that project.
I mean, of all marketing projects you worked on the last couple of years, what's the project you've been like most proud of, or the thing that was the most exciting?
Oh, the most exciting, I helped develop a influencer marketing program for one client, so that was cool. I got to do the market research and find interesting influencers for their campaign, help them out. So that was interesting to me, just learning about these different influencers and their content. I found this really cool guy. He does drum instruction on YouTube and TikTok, and so he was really cool. And I still always have him in mind for any other future campaigns that I might have to work on later. So yeah, people are really creating interesting content, so I enjoy that.
So what is like modernizing like a brand's message mean in 2025 and beyond?
What was that question?
Like, how do brands modernize their message in 2025 and beyond versus what was happening in the past, like 5 or 10 years ago?
Sure, to modernize, definitely looking at the data of how people are consuming information. So short form video, definitely with faces, authenticity. People like the kind of face to face communication. So all that kind of just imagine trade show being applied to digital channels where, you have a trade show rep talking about here, blah, blah, blah. I'm selling this thing, check this out, watch this demo. So you're just translating that into the digital space. So that's how I like to think about it. You still need that personality, you need that human connection. It can't just be a robot. I mean, I like AI and things like that, but it's really special in times like these to actually talk to a real person.
So how do you help brands find their like unique voice?
Well, a lot of times they already have all their branding and everything. It's just kind of helping them just kind of develop a refined, probably a posting schedule or a content strategy, maybe introduce them to techniques that they had never thought of using before. Yeah, mostly just always helping them stay ahead. That's the issue because the pace of technology is so fast. So that is the main issue. Just always trying to do the market research and reading up on what's new, what's coming up, and always make an effort to talk to other marketers in other cities or around the world to see what they're doing. Yeah, I always thought it was odd when people would just talk to their own people in their own city when there's just a big wide world out there and they're doing all kinds of different things.
It's definitely a different way of doing things. I know you've been kind of pivotal a little bit. You've been featured in outlets like USA Today, MarTech. How does opportunities come about? How do we get featured in those outlets?
Sure. Well, part of if you ever meet me, you'll understand that I talk to different types of people. And so I have journalists in my network. And if you go to journalism events, they'll talk about the things that they use and their tools and things. Yeah, I've picked up different ways of how they find sources and how to be listed as an expert in certain things. So I get daily emails from journalists asking they need an expert on blah, blah, blah. Can you email me or something like that? So I get those daily emails, and then if I'm relevant, then I'll respond. So that's how I've been able to place myself as a business owner in those outlets. And I still get the emails from journalists directly as well. And so I think building that relationship with the journalism community is really important because, uh, if they remember you, it's just easier instead of having to pitch blindly.
Oh, it's amazing. So sometimes, do you do any type of PR work?
I have worked for a PR company once. That was for a conference, and they needed me to moderate the social media wall. But for them, I wasn't exactly doing straight PR for them. But I have worked for a PR company, yes.
So when you have what's the advice you give to either like other marketers or business owners that may want to go into like consulting?
I think just be aware of the trends. Read everything that you can on business. I mean, I have a Fortune magazine subscription, and I could see the charts of the revenues for each company and the most profitable companies. Yeah, so I read a lot of business magazines, entrepreneur magazines, Inc., Forbes, a Wire. I'm a big in technology. So having an understanding of what's going on in the world is really important. What are the trends you're seeing? And then talking to professionals in your community, online and offline, and different areas of the world. It's really important.
So what do you think is some of like the most underrated like digital marketing trends or that some brands are not paying attention to or they should be paying attention to?
I mean, right now, I'm excited about connected TV. I think that is the future just because imagine, people are just laying out on their couch, so they have enormous amounts of time. They're ready to watch a movie, and your ad comes up on the screen. So even if they're not consciously looking for whatever that is, it's still there. So that is the opportunity. It's a big screen experience. People have the time to pay attention, click around, versus maybe, I don't know, something else. Maybe, yeah, I think connected TV is really, I think that is the future.
So you've done a lot of different things. You had worn many different hats, worked for different companies, played a lot of roles, worked on a lot of different projects. What's one lesson you would have wished you know knew before at an earlier age? From all your experiences and jobs and projects you worked on.
The one thing I learned is to always ask what you want. I learned that from a coworker of mine, and that's how I was able to pivot in my corporate job when I worked in the studio, and I was able to pivot to the project manager job. It was because I was proactive and telling my manager what I wanted to do and how I wanted my career to go. So being very proactive and telling people or multiple people, this is what I want to do. So then you create that seed in other people's brains because sometimes this is especially important if you want to change your career because a lot of times people see you only one way. So when I worked in TV, I was a technician and people only saw me as a technician. So you have to actively tell people, no, I want to do something else. Otherwise, they would have no idea and just continue on.
So what's next, like in your business and creative journey? Do you have any future goals that you're setting now, future projects?
I would like to get more into licensing. Licensing content, I think, is really interesting to me, just for the fact you can create it once or multiple times. You could create multiple intellectual properties and then just license them out to different companies. So yeah, so you don't have to do a 9 to 5 job if you don't want to. You could just exist on royalties or commissions or whatever. Especially licensing training content to companies. I think that is interesting to me because employees will always need to be trained because there's always something new. So there's opportunity. E learning is very big, virtual learning.
Great. So Melissa, if somebody has any questions for my conversation today or interested in working with you, what's the best way they can reach out to you?
Sure, people can reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's just under my name.
Great. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap up our podcast for today?
I would just say thanks for having me on your podcast. And that's about it. And you can reach me on LinkedIn.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today. I really appreciate it. You're a wonderful person and you're very smart and very talented in many different areas. So I definitely learned a lot from listening to you and all your advice. And so thank you for sharing all your expertise and knowledge with our audience today.
Great. Thanks.